Hello and welcome everybody to this brief XTB market update video. My name is Walid Koudmani, Chief Market Analyst for XTB. And in this brief video, we're going to be covering the main events happening in the markets this week, what to keep an eye on from the economic calendar point of view, some major moves, taking a look at the charts, and a look at the main events and what's been happening at the beginning of this week. So obviously the main event, especially in the UK, is the nomination of a new PM after Liz Truss varies a very short term that lasted less than 60 days since Boris Johnson resigned. So this has brought some stability to markets. A lot of investors and a lot of participants in the markets definitely favor Rishi Sunak to the previous prime minister. At the same time, this leaves a lot of uncertainty in the markets and it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. How will the other parties react? How will this develop further? And what kind of impact will this truly have on the UK economy, which has already been struggling, as we have seen, particularly more than other economies, even in the major ones. But at the same time, macroeconomic data continues to be very important. Today we had PMIs from Europe, France, Germany, the US, as well later on down the day. Quite mixed, haven't been able to completely impact sentiment though. So at the same time, markets, especially US ones, have managed to extend the upward move from the end of last week. This week though is going to be big. The earnings season continues. Last week obviously continues to be important, but this week in particular with the mega cap earnings, Amazon, Meta, Apple, and just some major, Google as well, Alphabet. And we have a lot of these very big names coming up. I'm going to read some of them to you just so you can keep an eye out, and we'll obviously keep you up to date here with XTB. So let's just move on to the economic calendar for the week, taking a look at what's happening. So today we had PMIs from the Euro area, UK and US. At the same time, tomorrow we have the German IFO, US Conference Board, and top earnings: 3M, Visa, General Motors, Coca-Cola, Alphabet, and Microsoft. Microsoft is the other one that I did not mention. Then Wednesday, we have the Bank of Canada rate decision, DOE report on oil inventories, which have been quite followed, particularly these days with the oil situation between Russia, OPEC, and so on. And we have Meta, Platforms, Boeing, and Kraft on Wednesday. Thursday, we have the ECB rate decision, also very highly followed. Central banks have been very much in focus. US GDP report for Q3, very important to follow. And as well, some top earnings: Amazon, Apple, Caterpillar, and Intel. So, and then Friday closing out the week with some GDP reports from Europe, US PCE, and Chevron and Exxon, so on the oil front of earnings. Nevertheless, there could be some spikes in volatility throughout the week, as these reports tend to have a huge impact on the investor sentiment as a whole, as they make up a very large part of the index. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. All of these, of course, we're going to be keeping you up to date with XTB. Let's move on now to just taking a look at some charts. One second while I switch the screen once again. Here we go. So as we switch the screen, we're going to take a look at some charts. Let's start with the pound. Here. Pound USD. Still trading around 112.8, as we can see here. This is overlaid. I'm going to take off the USD index graph. We can see upward gap at the beginning of this week, as it was basically clear that Liz Truss was going to resign, and obviously there was going to be a new PM. Also, as the day went by, we saw a slight pullback, but still around closing from Friday. So definitely some uncertainty. Remains above the 21 SMA on the 4-hour chart, as you can see. Some potential interesting levels around 110 and then 114.8 for potential resistance, at least in the short term. Still remains in this area, but we can see a little bit less volatility as markets accepted this. When it comes to the euro also making a slight recovery, as we saw a pullback in the US dollar pulling back, favoring as well the prices of commodities, which managed to recover slightly, although not that much. At the moment, though, we are seeing a rebound from the US dollar. What kind of helped a pullback of the US dollar as well was the comments from the Fed, which seem to be getting more dovish, as they are lowering the scope potential for their upcoming rate increases. So that could be having as well an impact on that. Besides that, let's switch to oil. Commodities, as I mentioned, benefiting a little bit from the negative performance of dollar, but still under pressure as Chinese news followed this week with another term of the current president. and which is going to probably bring more of the current policies, which include the zero COVID approach and the lockdowns, which have been very troubling to the economy and obviously industry as a whole. So some worries as far as demand concerns when it comes to oil, but at the same time, we have the whole issue with OPEC and so on also moving forward. So Brent around $90, $90, $91. And then as you can see here, WTI around 84.30. Still trapped in this range, as you can see, for quite some days, or about 10 days at this point. So interesting moves on this. The DAX, again, as I mentioned, indices managing to extend the upward move, pulling back just slightly now. When it comes to gold, though, gold attempting to break through once again, 1671, as you can see here, previous resistance, and also really upper level of this short-term range, but failed to do so and then pulled back slightly, still remaining in this previous price reaction area, which I'm going to show you here in a second. So this area, after breaking through the Ichimoku cloud on the H1 timeframe. Gold, again, slightly benefiting from a pullback in the dollar, but at the same time, sentiment for gold has been quite mixed, despite the mixed performance as well from the indices. When it comes to US indices, so this is the NASDAQ, again, very susceptible during the week. Both US 100 and US 500 are going to be more susceptible to the news coming out of the US earnings release, of course. And as these mega cap companies have a significant effect on the index as a whole. So it definitely could be something worth keeping an eye on. US dollar index, as you can see, pulling back from the last few days. Bitcoin just still struggling, hovering basically sideways for over 10 days now, around 19,000, failing to break over 20,000 again. And nat gas, after the pullback, has now, just as we speak, initiated an upward move of about, as I'm going to do here, about 7% almost, as you can see in the last few hours, reaching the pre-close of the other day. So you can see that just after a net pullback, rebounding from the support area and then bouncing back, but still testing this area over here. So it's going to be interesting to see if it managed to break through this area that I marked. Obviously, this is not an exact level, just kind of a general outline of how that would be looking. UK 100 index, again, like others, benefiting slightly, pull back up, and then testing a previous resistance or previous resistance area, as you can see here. And then finally, just taking a look at the Italian stocks, same story. So we're seeing this general sentiment of uncertainty across both indices and currencies, but sideways trading for the moment being at the beginning of the week, likely to get more and more interesting as the week goes on between the central bank decisions, the huge US mega cap earnings, the political news, the geopolitical news, and so on and so forth, the macro releases as well. So hopefully this brief outline was helpful. There's a lot to keep an eye on this week. We'll be sure to keep you up to date with XTB. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Walid Koudmani, Chief Market Analyst for XTB. Good luck with your trading.